2020 was dominated by a health crisis, but there was another crisis in the background. Free speech was under siege. The Great Barrington Declaration, representing alternative voices from Harvard, Stanford, and Oxford, underscored the necessity for open debate on public health. It was scrubbed, smothered, silenced. But Ethan Yang, a law student at George Mason University and Students for Liberty regional coordinator, took action.
We were suspicious that there might be something going on, maybe at the highest levels of government, because we have these world-leading scientists backed by thousands of others with this very official document asking for a debate around lockdown policies, and yet we didn't get any debate. Instead, we just got what seemed like unified condemnation from the White House, its administrative agencies like the CDC, and private companies. Like, this was what it mostly surprises, private companies like social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And so we were wondering, why are we not just getting no debate, but why are we also getting a unified attack against the premises in this document?
Ethan filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the National Institutes of Health, seeking any communication from Dr. Fauci and his peers that mentioned the Great Barrington Declaration or its key scientists.
Yeah, so we get this basically treasure trove of emails, many of them quite innocuous, but then as we got to the end, there was some pretty suspicious looking emails that were basically coming out immediately after the Great Barrington Declaration was released. It is from Dr. Collins to Dr. Fauci, and he basically is pinging Dr. Fauci saying, hey, did you see this thing, right? Have you seen this? This is worrisome. He asked Dr. Fauci if there's that we need to organize a devastating takedown, those were his exact words, and whether or not there's some sort of campaign underway to discredit the Great Barrington Declaration. There's people in the White House constantly checking into Facebook and Twitter saying like, hey, why isn't this post been taken down? Or like, hey, we're not forcing you to do this, but you better take that down, right? From the first request, right, they literally gave us everything. There's like, I don't think they knew who we were. I don't think they knew that there were people who disagreed that much with them, right? And so they actually gave us everything the first time, and that's when we released it to the public. That's when, Dr. Collins gets invited on Fox News, and then they just show him his emails and his face drops, right? Like, this went viral overnight.
Ethan sees an insidious governmental strategy to circumvent the First Amendment, subtle threats and nudges to digital platforms. Ethan's FOIA request threw a spotlight on these tactics and empowered the landmark Missouri v. Biden case. The case weaves together multiple instances of governmental pressure intended to mute specific narratives. The very government bound by the Constitution seemed to overstep its bounds. The question remains, how far will the government go, even into potentially illegal territory?
We requested more emails, and then once they figured out who we were and what we were doing, everything we got came back redacted. And I think once that happened, the administration eventually realized, like, yeah, we can't, like, this might be illegal what we're about to do, but, they'll never catch us alive at this point.
The nation watched as Missouri v. Biden approached its pivotal moment. As Independence Day 2023 dawned, federal judge Terry Doughty was set to pronounce a verdict that would echo throughout the land. The most massive attack against free speech in U.S. history.
I remain optimistic because of the level of resistance and resiliency that was demonstrated all across society. There are people who are willing to say, I'm not afraid of the government. I can clearly see that the government's using its tools to censor, using its vast resources to put out statements of its own, right? They'll look at that and say, I'm not having any of that. But I'm gonna come out and say what I believe, and I'm gonna do it in a very, very confident, well-researched, and authoritative way. Even if the government was able to win in the Supreme Court, they will not be able to, I doubt they'll be able to handle what's coming for them if they choose to continue what they're doing when it comes to pushing censorship through private social media companies.
Ethan didn't embark on this mission alone. Supported by Students for Liberty, he found himself in a community dedicated to fostering knowledge and action.
I wouldn't have my career without SFL. In many ways, it was where I had many of my biggest learning moments, many of my greatest accomplishments. The biggest thing that can isolate that's helped me be who I am today is the level of ownership and initiative that it's forced me to have, really. I would never have seen myself in a position of national leadership I thought I could barely handle myself at school, and all of a sudden I'm being told to grow chapters at other institutions. And so that really forced me to take on a bigger vision of what it means to be a leader and what I thought I was capable of. Just showed me like, oh, by the way, this organization is not some random group you just report your hours to. It's probably the most important liberty organization in the world.
At Students for Liberty, our mission goes beyond academia. We instill in our students a passion for freedom, we arm them with the tools and skills to champion it, and inspire them to make a difference in the world. With Ethan's journey as testament, the impact of this approach is undeniable.